Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsitt, John Kays, DL Hill, Julian Jeremiah, Tommy Swagnett, Michael Kahn, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Samson, Maris, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dale West Watson, Mike, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you who support me on Patreon. Now I'm going to hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones.
And when we in reality, when they bring the vertex here of the angle down to the surface of water underneath the boat, because in reality it's not a sphere, right? They're taking that part away, and what they're doing is they're just dipping down the lens of the in their diagrams. They're just dipping down the lens of the sextant towards the water. That's what they're doing. So this is the actual angle here to the straight horizon and star, and what they're doing is they're just begging the question, and then they're dipping down the lens towards the water, right, and claiming that water that they're dipping it down towards is the geometric horizon. Black Swan. They're claiming a geometric horizon with this. This is what they're doing. They're begging the question. It's complete and utter nonsense.
And Brian, thus negating every reference in the official books that are written about how to use the sextant, to what mariners themselves have written books about how to use the sextant, no matter how you want to look at it. They are saying that the GP of the star to the observer is a straight radius line. And these guys, based on what you're saying, are saying, no, it's not. It goes out into outer space.
Well, it's kind of funny because when you ask them about the straight radius, they start messing around with their claim. I'm not going to go making their claims for them. I want them to make their own claims, because I'm not going to go adding in stuff here. I want them to come in and have to face those questions, or have to face those questions on other servers or whatever, right? What I know for definite from this, and we all know, is that the horizon dip correction officially, right, because every official diagram and every official writing about it brings the vertex, which is this here, of the angle, which is the two black lines, down to the surface of the water underneath the boat. There is no dipping down of the lens towards the water. That doesn't happen. That is not the horizon dip correction. That is completely made up nonsense. It is not reality. It's not what mariners do. It's complete rubbish. So what they're doing is they're just trying to muddy the water and manipulate the argument. Just like they're doing with this 60 nautical miles per degree thing.
Well, what you're doing is you're exposing their Muppet vision that they've used for years for every defense of their globe. And then now that the sextant is the year of the sextant, 2021, they want to go to their Muppet vision and use it again to clobber the sextant, except the sextant clobbers their Muppet vision.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, this is the exact diagram that they're showing people, right? What is this purple thing here? It's meant to be a globe out. So they're starting off straight away with a globe. You know, they're begging the question from the start, right? They're ignoring how the sextant actually works and what actually happens with it. And what they're doing is they're ignoring our argument. You see what they're doing? They're ignoring our argument.
Well, that's why we're saying Sexton can't work on the curved surface. It's exactly what we're saying. And they got a curved surface trying to now use this Muppet vision with the curved surface to say this is how the Sexton works. Well, the Sexton can't work with a curved surface. So they hit a dead end with this Muppet vision stupid picture of theirs that they've used for everything. The minute they come to the Sexton that does measure angles, this defense is over for them. This is, well, first of all, it was never a defense because they're pre-assuming the Earth is a sphere in the first place. So,
yeah, but this is what, like, when they were saying the solar, what they were saying the solar, I've got the same, right? I've gotten that same thing that they're saying the solar. How do you have a 60 nautical mile, a 1 degree dip at 60 nautical miles when it's based on a sphere? This is what they say, right? I've gotten the exact same thing in the past couple of days, and Nathan got it from Professor Phil. The comments from his chat are I think they're in Master B. He got the exact same thing from Professor Phil. He read out earlier. What they're doing is they're using longitudinal distances, right, with the 69 statue at 60 nautical miles per degree of angle, right, to Polaris. What they're doing is they're using that, knowing, because they can't deny that that's the baseline for all sextant use, right? They figured out the distance to everything through the use of through Polaris being stationary. They figured out all the other stars, all works out the same, except for they're not stationary, Polaris is. So when you move away from Polaris, it drops by 1 degree every 60 nautical miles. And when those other stars move away from you, they drop by 1 degree every 60 nautical miles, right? So they're ignoring the word angle, right? And then they're begging the question, right, by using longitudinal distances and ignoring the fact a lot of them don't know this, right? A lot of them don't know this. And when I ask, all I have to do is ask them this, and I get no reply. Longitudinal distances are exactly the same, curved or flat. They're no different. It's latitudinal distances between the longitude lines that change, right? But the latitude lines, the distances, north to south, south to north, never change. Right, and that's what they're doing. They're begging the question with this 60 nautical miles per degree thing. They're just using longitudinal distances and pre-assuming a sphere, ignoring the fact that those distances are exactly the same on a flat plane, and the angle they're talking about requires a flat plane.
I think what you're saying.
Hey, I never heard them say that a sextant proves the globe Earth. I've never heard anyone say that. Why didn't they come right out with this then?
I heard.
Way back when?
They say it all the time now.
The longitude.
Now.
Yeah, but that's always when they come up with that nonsense, right after we put it in the public as a proof for flat Earth. That's when suddenly it comes out of nowhere that, oh, now that is actually a globe proof. That's what they do.
They consider
a globe proof.
Trying to say something, lads.
They consider a meridian, like the prime meridian that's through England for the chronometer, for the time, and all other meridians is longitudinal except for one. And those are all great circles that slice through the Earth and go through the center. I'll come back to that. The only other one is the equator on their model slices through the center. So that's the only great circle from that they have. Everything else is a small circle for them, cuts through the sphere at some place, but never through the center. So the only ones that cut through the center are referred to as great circles. So on the longitudinal line, which are many meridians, right? Because you can just say I'm over here, 2 hours away from Greenwich, or 2 hours 30 minutes away from. So that slices through the Earth. They consider that meridian that goes around the sphere on the outside. Now we know that's a circle.
Oh my God!
They consider that as.
I was on push to talk the whole time.
What's going on here?
Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Check.
Hello?
Finally, Discord is back.
Nathan.
Ted is in the middle of something.
Yeah, just 1 second,
I'm
Tommy.
really sorry. I'll wait.
Did any of that get recorded, Nathan?
Yeah, it's all recorded, always.
All right, because there was no sound coming through to Discord at all.
What?
I'll summarize.
Just let 10th finish.
They consider a meridian, which is a circle around the circumference of the Earth, a straight line. Any great circle that slices through the center for them is a straight line. That's how they look at it. Now, we know it's impossible to call that a straight line, but they do.
Yeah, this is total nonsense, right? This all goes back to Aristophanes, right? This is where this goes back to. Aristophanes, right, measured a 500 mile, whatever it was in stadia, distance between Alexander and Cyan, north to south, south to north, whatever, right? And then he supposedly pre-assumed that the sun rays were parallel to make it a globe. So it all goes back to this parallel sun rays that don't exist. It's nonsense. Longitudinal distances are exactly the same, flat or globed. No difference.
But this
The only
is what
difference
I'm
is
saying.
whether the sun rays.
Can I get? I just came on just to show you, Nate, ask a few questions for you guys because I found an article online.
Hold on. Hello? So, can you drop and come back in because your line's all distorted and horrible?
1 second.
Could I just finish with this, what I'm showing here first? Just a second before Tommy asks these questions.
Sure.
Not better, is it?
Okay, just very quickly.
Is that any better?
Just on the horizon point.
It is, but please bear with us, Tommy.
All right, sorry, mate. I'm really sorry.
Okay. Sorry, 1 second, Tommy. I'm just finished because I presented screen earlier and I wanted to go on to this, but I didn't get an opportunity yet. But this will be very quick. Imagine the red line is your eye line, right? The blue line is the surface, right, underneath your feet, right? Now, what happens is with the horizon is the further something is away from you, let's just say, at that exact height, this red line starts coming down here like this. And the closer it gets to 3 or 4 miles, wherever it is for a normal viewer height, standing viewer height, looking out over the water, the closer it gets to the blue line. And eventually, the both of them, right, they'll never meet, but because of the diffraction limit, it looks like the two of them are meeting. So you get this kind of an effect. But what's actually happening is that little bit of space here, has just become unresolvable for your eye. So that white bit of space between the red and blue line just gets so small you can't resolve it. Whereas here there was loads to resolve, but the further away it gets, there's nothing to resolve. You can't resolve it. Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Tommy, sorry to keep you waiting so long. Go ahead.
Awesome. No, it's fine, man. I've been listening in for a bit. I had myself on push to talk, and I've been screaming at the microphone, thinking, "Why ain't it working?" For the last 25 minutes, it's been so embarrassing. But I watched a documentary the other day.
Back off your microphone because you're eating it, and it sounds horrible.
Is that better? Check.
Much better. Thank you.
All right. I checked out. I watched this documentary about 5 hours long. It's called The Lost Earth or something like that, Lost Flat Earth or whatever. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen it. I don't know if any of you guys have come across it. And it's on about how there's a map on the moon. Have you seen that?
I've seen some.
Yes.
Some. Let's not be biased in my description of what I've seen. Yes, go ahead.
Did you guys think it was interesting, like the fact that it was saying it was actually
it was very interesting. Very interesting, Tommy. What have you got to say about it? Go ahead.
Come across it then. I thought it was brilliant, man. I thought the fact that it had it seemed to explain. It showed the little circle at the top of the moon, which showed the top of the dome, and it was showing that that half of the moon shows like what part of the Earth we live in, and there's like 4 major parts to the land that we're on, and we're in the north section, and there was a lot of references to star signs. Choose like the Capricorn, and the opposite to Capricorn, opposite to Pisces is Virgo, and we're going into Aquarius, and it's like a massive. Basically, we're stationary in the middle, and it's just like there's a map on the moon, and the moon is a reflection of the Earth, which is just fascinating. I thought it was it was on about gamma rays. They only pick up like the X-ray, such like the same sort of grey image that we're getting from the moon. I thought it was really interesting, and I thought best for everyone just to have a watch of it and get their take on it. And I'm glad that you've already seen it then, Nathan. I thought I thought maybe if you didn't, I thought I have to bring these guys to you guys and show you because I thought it was absolutely amazing.
Very good. Is that it? You just wanted to tell us about that? That's fair enough.
Yeah, I thought, well, since you already know about it, it's just kind of pissed on my chips a bit. You pissed on my chips a bit because you've already seen it. But I did think, oh, how come you guys never mention any of this sort of stuff? Because I thought it was just like, it's really good. I thought like it's just a lot to talk about.
I can say something about it. I think that the idea is fascinating, but at the same time, everything that has supposedly a likeness to the land masses that we know is completely warped. As in, there is nothing actually perfectly reflected. Nothing, not a single thing. It's all warped. So if it is a reflection, then it's very, very warped.
I think you'll find it's a tree.
Yeah, they did say in there that the outer edges are more distorted than the inner edges, and he did say he did clarify the distortion because of the reflection of I think it's the reflection of the dome or something. I can't only watch. It's 5 hours long, so there's a lot to take in on it. But he does say that it's refracted and distorted. So, but there is a lot of
that's handy.
A lot of similarities.
Yeah, similarities. Great.
But if I was God and I designed the world, I would literally put something in the sky for them to know where they are on the land. That would make sense to me.
Like a hood.
Why? Why would you do that?
Yeah,
Tommy, what's the purpose of the sextant?
Yeah?
Tommy.
Hold on, serious questions now.
How you doing, Quantum? You all right, mate?
What's the purpose of the sextant?
The sextant? I don't know what that is.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Is that the shape of the black moon shape? That's a hexagon, isn't it?
No, it's a tool.
Can you please explain?
It's a tool.
It's just measuring this angle right here.
It's used for triangulating your position. That's what he's searching for.
Okay.
Unless you're a glober, and then it has, and I'm going to do all shouty caps, nothing to do with triangulation.
Yeah, it only measures angles. It doesn't triangulate. According
no
to
triangles. Don't mention 90, said the baller.
Especially after I just described how you got a triangle. Don't do that.
Nothing to do with triangles, Chocolate. Shh.
I thought the cathedrals as well.
Get a straight line by looking straight ahead.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
It's mad,
Light is
it's
bent.
raw mad. Like it really is a circuit board, isn't it? We're living on. If you look at it, it's a raw circuit board. And you know, I was in the other server listening. I don't even talk anymore because I just hear them constant denial. Like everything, they refute absolutely everything. They never entertain any other alternative idea. It's sad. Honestly, I feel like I'd you know, I just feel like I could. I used to be like that. And back off your
mic. Back off your mic. You're getting too excited.
Sorry.
Right. What do you mean circuit board? You're gonna have to qualify that up, son.
They were saying that the cathedrals, like the large power stations that are like the large monumental places, like even the pyramids were like power stations, and we've built different ones like cathedrals, which is like a cathode. And it was saying that like they changed the word slightly, so there's no cathode for cathedral, and then they had there's like an antenna at the top, and then a resonator as it literally is the same as, because obviously I've done electrics and stuff, and it literally is the same shape like that these electrical components have. And if you think about us, like human beings, we're like energy in it. We're walking around.
Hold on.
And we've
Hold on. Whoa. Right. So I've got cathode cathedral, and looks like you're describing Antiquitech. Looks like other machines that we have. Cool.
Yeah.
Just look at our head.
Hold on. Hello.
We're
middle of a conversation. Hello. So, how much power, pray tell, have you seen a cathedral generate?
Never seen it generate a single thing.
Really? But cathode, cathedral, basically the same thing, right?
They look similar, yeah.
Oh, right.
There's a relation. There's a correlation.
I've got a great channel recommendation for you. It's called Pete Shea.
I was just going to say that. I said, is this Pete?
You'll find it's not a map or a hood. It's a tree. Aristarchus, have you not heard of the dodo? Man, you've gone way off the beaten path. Sergeant Pepper? No,
Yeah,
none of this ringing any bells.
I don't hold this pod.
It's all connected.
Pepper.
It's all
Nah,
connected.
this is
Sergeant
not
Pepper.
PJ.
Man, chocolate or shills, because we did not mention anything about 9/11. Come on, get up with the
Look,
PJ.
Don't get into the 9/11 bit.
John.
Look, let's
Don't
stick
be
with
basic,
the
Neil.
Tree of Life, Aristarchus, and the Dodo. With that, he's got all the information he can ever need, ever. Have you got? That's basically all you need. I mean, what more do you want, Tommy?
I'm not sure what you're
Take
doing.
what Tesla
Hold on,
feeling.
can everyone calm down? I'm trying to talk to Tommy. What do you mean you've not got enough from what I've just said? Hold on, I'll repeat it to him. I'm giving him gold here. Don't rumpus it. Right, write this down. Aristarchus. Yeah, you got that? Tree of Life. You got that? Sergeant Pepper. That's all you need. Now you know what we know. Go in peace.
What are we doing right now?
You just ticked off PJ.
Chocolate, you wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand. Shill.
Just stare at the clouds and you'll figure it out.
Pete's coming after you, Nathan.
Actually, Chocolate does understand. It's all a ruse. Chocolate knows all about Sergeant Pepper.
You can steal Aristarchus in every
I
cloud.
definitely must, yes.
If you're giving Tommy,
Hey, Nathan, I didn't get my monthly installment.
I know about Sergeant Pepper. It was 20 years ago today. That Sergeant Pepper
Neil,
taught the-
Neil,
the
don't
flag.
tell people. Okay, so did that? Hold on, let's just see. We were trying to help him out. Has that helped you? You all clear now, Tommy?
I can elaborate on PJ lore for you if you wish, Tommy.
No.
Tommy's not answering anymore. He seems confused. Maybe his head's hurting.
Arwin should help though. There's certain rules in Pete Shea world, like you have to accept certain fundamentals, like I don't know, Will Smith is Barack Obama, before you can fully engage in the full narrative. You have to have these certain acceptance. Like,
I'd rather go talk to my car.
Nobody can actually be what they seem to be or who they seem to be in Hollywood. It always has to be somebody else secretly.
no, including us, we're all actors. Remember,
Yeah, but we don't know about that yet.
only Pete knows. You're right.
I've been waiting on my installment check from Nathan. What happened?
Came to my house accidentally.
No, but
Wait a second. You got shorted too, Paul? I thought I was the only one.
Oh,
there is
brother.
something.
I'm getting
There
all.
is
I'm getting
something
all
to
the checks.
Tesla Tech and cathedrals. It's just if you immediately pile everything on that is like, oh yeah, of course that's it. Yes, of course. Yeah,
Tommy
that's a
okay?
bit of a stretch.
We haven't heard anything from you. Are you okay, Tommy? Do you need some sugar?
I like to ask Tommy a question.
Let's just see if he's still here.
That's what I mean, if he's here.
Maybe,
Maybe
he's gone.
he's back on mute again like the last half hour.
I don't know. I think he's gone to get, sugared up at the tart area.
Jeez, if you upset him and he goes back to the ball, oh my God, I couldn't take it.
Wow.
What would you go back to the ball too then, Neil?
Like, please don't go.
Sounds like a song.
It is a song.
I know. No,
Look, he's-
what's
posted 10th. I posted Tommy's uploaded fight in the war room for people to look at earlier on today. I don't know if you want to have a look at it. It's quite cool. 3 rounds of good quality boxing.
Where's this?
We put it in the war room.
Wait, that was Tommy.
Tommy's a fighter.
Yeah, that's Tommy fighting.
Yeah, Tommy's a boxer, bro.
No, I'm just wondering where Tommy's been. He didn't know what a sextant was.
Tommy knows I could
So
take
was
him.
I. I was a boxer too. I used to box oranges in Florida.
Nice. Well, I won't get on your case then.
At least he has a sunny disposition about it.
I
Oh,
just keep my
brother.
head away from fists. That works good.
Hey,
for me.
QE, stop complaining back there. What you got, man?
It makes
Jeez, you guys are off
chocolate.
the rails, man.
Chocolate. It makes no rhyme or reason.
Hold on. Does QE sound skeptical? Have you not heard of the dodo? QE?
Oh no.
Don't you know the dodo is actually the land masses you're standing on?
Come on, I think QE's got something good.
Q, tell about tomorrow's show.
Oh, we got something good for tomorrow. Tomorrow's show. And take some people to the woodshed. That's what's going to happen tomorrow.
Okay. Note to self. QE distracted away from the dodo. Possible shill.
Yes. Yes, I'm trying to distract away from that. So we're going to have a little fun with some numpty dipshits and take them to the woodshed, even professionals. Stay tuned.
Who's on the docket?
The fantasy geodesist Larry Scott was it with his little drawing. You'll see it tomorrow. Bob, the pseudoscience Herman Munster flathead fallacy guy.
Yeah.
And take a naval officer to the woodshed. He did it himself, though. I'm just going to help him along.
Okay.
Been given permission to do that.
Did I give who permission to do that?
Did you get permission or clearance first?
No, this is between officers. So this is an officer thing. Officer and a gentleman, and an officer and a numpty dipshit.
Are you an officer then?
Yes.
QE, I don't know. Maybe you got like a minute.
Till I
or two to
vapor lock.
throw in. Maybe you got an extra minute to throw into your slaughter of the numpties. But check your DM real quick. Sent you a nice screenshot. If you want to read that, have a few laughs.
Don't you know? QE
Oh,
was in
that
scene with Deborah
is
Winger?
part of my show tomorrow. Ironically.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Can you read it out?
You read it, Chocolate?
It's the same thing I read before. It's Dr. Phil, or what's his name? Just Phil? Yeah. The Just Phil comment. I could read it out again if you like.
What did he say?
Instead of saying shouty caps, read it verbatim, but just shout.
Okay. Well, I had to exaggerate because, he did. All right. So, Just Phil, quote, "Are you serious? Have you ever used a sextant? You just look at the horizon in the scope, then use index arm to line up the star, then read off the angle. Take the dip, angle, and instrument correction into account, and you have your latitude. That is it. No right angle, no triangulation. It does not measure distances. I have never heard so much shit spoken." Unquote.
Wow.
Wow.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just a bunch of angles, but not triangulation.
Right.
So it's like
No, that's not
doing
the stupid. That's
triangulation,
not
but
the stupidest
calling it
part of that.
triangulation.
That's not the stupidest part of that one. Now, I have to own up. This isn't the one that I'm going to deal with tomorrow. It's the one that he sent to Nathan. But this is pretty funny. Then you use the index arm to line up the star. Then read off the angle. Take the dip angle and the instrument correction into account, and you have your latitude. Really, just from any star or the sun or the moon at any time. Really, Phil. That's the stupidest part of that. Think about it.
Yeah, they're only
Did you
using
get
the
it
north
yet?
to south. They're only using north to south longitude. It means that everything has to be north to south longitude. You understand what I mean?
Any star is the key part of that statement. If you guys don't get that, then ooh.
Oh, he's not referring to the navigational stars. He's just saying any star.
Or the sun or the moon. Is that how we get our latitudes? We just arbitrarily just shoot at any star? Really? Is that how we do that?
No.
You could test him on it and basically ask him a question to identify where he is based on this and this star situation, and then just see, okay, so Where are you according to this star image? You
This
know
is all
how
a
to
ruse.
get
It's just
latitude,
our-
right? By pointing at the
That's
star.
how they do it. That's why.
It's just a ruse.
That's why we're
Owen
on the globe.
just wants to bundle up Dr. Phil and dump him somewhere and go, yeah, find your way now.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Well, you guys
Just
got
chop-
off this topic
chopper
real
lift
quick.
him.
You
Just-
guys ain't getting this. are
Huey,
you?
send a chopper and just lift him and dump him somewhere random.
Here we go.
Let him
Okay.
orientate himself.
Okay, go on then. Break it down for us if we're not getting it.
Then you use any star to get your latitude. I thought you used Polaris to do that.
Oh, I see. You're cross-referencing anti-baller rhetoric.
You can use the sun as well. You can use the sun to get your latitude.
He's saying any star. That's the
What is
point
it?
he's making.
But any star, no, because the point I made earlier, I don't think it was fully. I don't know if it was heard or if it was thought about. That latitude is a north to south thing. Further away, closer to Polaris. It's your latitude. You can use the sun as well, but you have to use the nautical almanac for the sun to find out exactly where the sun is at that time and blah, blah, blah on that day to get a latitude. But latitudes, they're lines crossing the longitude lines. Where you go closer or further, north to south, from, let's say, Polaris, if you're north of the equator. Any star, no. Well, it depends. You might have to. I don't know for definite if you can use any star, but it doesn't sound like you can use any star considering you're going to be looking east to west sometimes. I know you can use the sun.
The reason I got a vacuum cleaner in the next room here is it loud?
A little bit,
Or
but it's
am I
okay.
coming in okay?
Not bad.
Tolerable.
Okay. All right. So this is why I say they're going to need a 90 because they're using the equator as 0. And if you move from the equator towards Polaris, you're going to get to 90. So this is why when you use Polaris in their verbiage, Northern Hemisphere, it's easy to know what your latitude is because Polaris is at 90 and the equator is at 0, and that creates that right angle and your baseline. See, you're going to need a 90, ballers. If you're going to take the stars as they appear and put them on the globe, you're still going to need a 90. So that's what they're saying when they say Polaris.
No. That's not what he's saying, Ken. He's saying use the index arm to line up the star. Well, what star is that? He didn't say Polaris.
No, I have to read it, but he didn't say it if he didn't say it. But what's he lining it up to?
A star? He didn't say Polaris.
No, it needs to be the horizon.
That's what QE's saying.
Yeah.
Which means
Yeah,
You should give him you should give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe, of him not specifying which star, right?
He's
To that guy who said the comment to
Who the
chocolate.
benefit of the doubt?
He's saying
To
give
the guy
Prof,
who sent you the message, yeah.
Prof Phil. He's saying give Prof Phil the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but not everyone
would we do
looks through the sextant and the Polaris is the star you're looking at. Not everyone looks at that. You're not looking at just Polaris.
Technically, he's right, but he doesn't know why he's right, and I explain why. You can look at any star to get your right. This is right. He's saying you can look at any
You're
star.
not reading the
to get
message.
hang on, leave me finish. You can look at. He's saying you can look at any star to get your latitude. No, that's not correct. You can look at 2 and more stars to find your exact position, which will also.
Yeah,
give you
that's
your
not what
latitude.
he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's
Unbelievable.
that's where what he's saying is coming from. His lack of understanding of that. You understand? It's a claim the ballers are making that's coming from a lack of understanding of triangulation. He's the very thing he's basically chanting the very thing he's denying.
Yeah, he's triangulating.
You're being kind, but you're also assuming that the reason they don't understand it is because they're just a bit thick. Actually, not necessarily true that the reason they don't get it is because of your explanation. They could, be snide. Purposely distracting. That's more likely. Or in this case, like making, I think, wholly ignorant, because the comment seems to be, you look at a star, measure its angle. Yeah. It's not a qualified statement. So it's either subterfuge or total ignorance. But
okay, let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. Say it's noon, Greenwich time, and I'm out somewhere on the ocean, and the star I'm gonna pick is the sun. So I pick the sun, and I get the elevation angle, and I say, you know what? Let me just chill out for about 3 more hours, and let me get the elevation of the sun again. Is it gonna be at the same angle?
No.
Did my latitude just change?
No.
Jesus.
Did you say 3 more hours?
what you've got to do there is admit that it's not just the angle, isn't it? You've had to take now 2 readings to do something. And this is the ignorant point again. You can't just point it at a star and it does things, except, as Brian's prefaced, Polaris it gives you 1 reading. But as for the rest of it, it requires a fundamental understanding of the trigonometry and multiple measurements to give you any real information.
Say I'm in the southern hemisphere and I can't see readings. Let's say I'm in the southern hemisphere and I can't see Polaris. So I can just shoot at any star, and it'll give me my latitude off the elevation angle. Really? Can anyone show me that?
My point on it is that what he's saying, he's denying triangulation while also speaking about something that requires triangulation.
Yeah, I didn't get the triangulation part yet, or the right angle. I'm just dealing with the upper part and how stupid it is.
It's a leaving your pants while not taking them off situation. That's what it is.
It's about as bad as Fight the Tight Church saying he could teach his kids how to find his location on Earth with a swinging pendulum.
No, that's not. No. The stupidest one is you put your hand up in front of your face. Are you seeing your hand? Yes. No, you're not.
Honestly, you're not.
What? Who said that?
Well, that's going to come back to bite them now.
That was Craig.
Not Bob.
Oh, Craig. Oh, sorry. Craig.
Wow, he said, no, you're not.
Yes, that's what he said.
I didn't hear that one.
That was pretty much verbatim. What Quantum Eraser said was the back and forth exchange, I believe, between Mitchell from Australia and Craig. And the question was posed by Craig to Mitchell. If you put up your hand, are you just looking straight at your hand? The answer came back, yes. And the reply was, no, you're not.
And then he lit a fag and stuck it straight in his ear.
So you can't even look at you're not even looking at your hand when it's directly in front of your face, but somehow they get straight lines to the horizon.
Yeah, that's why we're contrasting it with him. Beautiful, isn't it, Chocolate? You can't even see your own hand because of sphere-shaped air. But yeah,
Exactly.
we just look and get a straight line now. Why? Well, because we're going to forget all 20 months of our response to the Black Swan in regards to our lack of geometry. I just think it's brilliant.
Regretting it now.
But come on, Nathan. You just look at it and you see straight at it, right? But light bends. So it's just when you talk about light, it bends. But when you're looking at something, you can just look straight at it.
Yeah, so I look at the Chicago...
Chocolate, I put it in Master B.
So I look at the Chicago straight, then. It's not a mirage. It's not bent line coming to my eye because it's refracted from behind the physical geometric sphere edge horizon. Bent line to my eye, refracted Chicago, right, Arwin? That's actually straight. Well, then it's welcome to flat Earth if I'm just looking at it straight.
So when you look at it, you look straight at it. But
welcome to flat Earth.
Then it's actually curved. When you calculate it, it's going to be curved.
Yeah, calculate it. Calculate it, something that you're looking at and you can see. And you've got a straight line because that's how your vision works, as per the description from an anti-flat earther. But then when we calculate it, we can calculate a bent line. So we're looking at it straight and just seeing it, but then we're imagining that we're not seeing it. It's behind an earth curve edge, right, Arwin?
Yes.
All right, so I see it, it's there, but I can imagine it's not there and it's a hologram. Well, that's wonderful.
Finally, you're
Hey,
starting
Nathan,
to understand.
It's in Ball Busters.
What's in Ballbusters now?
Craig.
Oh, I can play it. Oh, cool. Yes, I'll do that.
It's real short.
In Ballbusters. Okay, I'm in Master B at the minute. Just give me a second.
Wow.
It's in Ball Busters too, or Master B too.
Jesus.
Okay, everyone, pop yourselves on mute.
Horizon that we're saying is not physical. It's
No,
refracted.
nothing. You hold your hand out in front of you. Is that your physical hand you're seeing?
Correct.
No, it's not.
Yeah, weren't joking.
Wow.
Quantum Eraser was basically verbatim.
Yeah.
I mean, any glober's got a straight line when you can't see your hand in front of your face. That's not even your hand. Come on, one of you guys gotta back this up. Come on.
Just tell us it's straight, so we can welcome you to Flat Earth. Like Bob. The reason Bob ran away, in case anybody wonders, why did Bob run away? He was here white knighting, demanding that we didn't understand celestial observation. Then he was asked for a straight line, and suddenly he was only here to make an appointment. Well, because as per Craig and his rhetoric in regards to his globe faith, he can't even see his hand with a straight line in the position it's actually in, because all lines are bent always on an atmospheric-based sphere. So, unfortunately, when asked for a straight line in atmosphere, you can't get one. Now, if Bob is even the mildest bit of intelligence, or mildest intelligence level, then he will appreciate that he spent 20 months telling us we haven't got a straight line to look at. Only exists in the maths, never no Atmo day. So when do you get a straight line for the angle? If you're going to be arguing about dip to a dipping away bent horizon, so you can correct to the curved line, well, you're going to need an angle to do it. Well, there's no difference to us asking where you get your tangent, because that's the exact same straight line that you're going to claim you're measuring dip with. So straight line then. The very thing you haven't got on a sphere, and you've been telling us for 20 straight months that you haven't got one, and we shouldn't expect to see one, and the only straight line that is in existence on a sphere is in the maths.
I mean, your hand, and I'm sorry, I'm going to exaggerate this, but your hand is not actually in front of your face. You're not actually looking at your hand. Please, globers, ballers, anti-flat, somebody come get this, come pick up this mess that Craig just left all over the place.
Imagine
Please.
what he was doing as a teen in the bathroom.
Nah, nobody got this?
No.
Is your hand actually in front of your face? Can any glober respond to that? Or are y'all going to leave your man's fight the tight shirt in the dust all by his lonesome?
It's part of globe rhetoric. So it's like asking an anti-flat earther, come on, anti-flat earther, admit to your actual globe claim. I mean, it's just as painful for an anti-flat earther to admit some globe rhetoric that we've debunked than it is to, defy their anti-flat earth rhetoric we've debunked. Equally painful on both sides. Our flat earth rebuttal to a globe claim and the globe claim become equally painful when you've got a contradiction in terms. So asking them where you get a straight line, yeah, that's going to be a very big problem that they're not going to want to answer. Pointing out that the geometric horizon is their horizon in their world, again, very big problem that they're not going to want to admit to, even though it's standard globe rhetoric. All that's being claimed by Craig is standard globe rhetoric, atmospheric. That's all he's doing. Standard stuff. But getting them to admit it after we've debunked it, that's much more difficult. Yeah, what we're now begging them to do, Chocolate, is say, tell us again that it's all refracted. Yeah? Do you remember your Black Swan response, Fundies? Refracted, always. We wouldn't expect to see geometry. This tool uses geometry, by the way. Straight lines. The sextant requires geometric certitude to work. What's that? We wouldn't expect to see physical geometry. Oh, really? So where'd you get a straight line for the sextant? Tell us again what you've told us for 20 months that it's refracted. Go on, tell us again. And while they've been chanting it for 20 months, refraction, refraction, then we interrupt that constant stream of refraction with sextant. Now say refraction one more time, motherfucker. Oh, and they've gone silent. They don't want to say refraction now. Well, that's weird. They've been barking at it for 20 straight months. Yet at the moment we bring up the sextant, they don't want to tell us refraction anymore. They just total silence. Isn't that weird? Not at all, just pain. Tell us refraction again. Tell us how we're never going to get a straight line again when that's precisely what we require. Don't you want to bark refraction anymore? What's wrong?
I can tell you've been practicing your refraction.
I'm still not up to standard.
I like keeping the argument on the sextant and not anything else, because the sextant itself on its own, no matter what they say, latitude, longitude measurements of stars, it doesn't matter. How does it work? It cannot work over a curved surface. And that's where they're going to die, because they cannot ever get that tool to work without a baseline.
But it does work, Kent.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Exactly, 10th. The baseline. The very first time they mention the word angle, they're screwed. Because they need a straight line for it and they haven't got one refracted. It's the end of the argument. Now they've reached a brick wall. Because up until now, they could put their head in the sand and ignore the fact that they need geometry. Oh, well, we don't need it. It's refracted. Look, here's Andrew Thomas Young showing a bent line to the horizon. You dumbos. Why would you expect to get a straight line? Because this tool uses one. Tell me it's refracted again, so that we can invalidate your use of this tool. What's that? You don't want to say it's refracted. We look and we get a straight line now. Welcome to Flat Earth. 20 months of you telling us it's refracted while we say we see a straight line. Now you can't say refraction, can you? Because you need a straight line, and you haven't got one. But as soon as you tell me that you have, I'll welcome you to Flat Earth, because Chicago's no longer refracted.
Yeah, but the sextant works.
Yeah, because it's flat. Earth is flat. Sextant works because Earth is flat.
It's going to get medieval over the next 2 months or so. Get ready.
I can feel it coming. I can sense it too.
Yep.
They've reached a simmering. They reached a simmering point with the Black Swan. Now they're starting to boil over.
Yeah, the fact that I got a random DM from Just Phil regarding the first DM I got from him is about the sextant. Yeah, y'all stressed out. Bob came here to schedule an appointment. Yeah, y'all stressed out. It's it's problematic, huh?
Did anyone find Bob's whore yet? Did he explain what his whore was? We're gonna go over that again tomorrow.
Nobody knows where Bob gets his whore from.
He erased the W at the front and the E at the end.
Yeah. I said it so many times the other day, they limited my monetization.
Because you said whore too many times.
Yeah.
H-O-R.
H-O-R. Yeah, they didn't know that. They just heard whore.
We were doing it on purpose a heck of a lot when I was doing it with him.
Okay, let's have no more mention of Bob's whores.
Yeah, let's not talk about the horizon.
No more mention of his creepy eyes.
Arwen.
Because it has to be on the horizon, because no whore would actually approach him. No, this is too far.
I'd say a little too far. That. Personal.
Okie dokie then. I'll say nothing.
Make sure you stop by. We're gonna have a little fun tomorrow.
I'll see if I can.
Okay.
Exciting times. But you can sense the tension. I can certainly sense the tension. Chocolate's describing the tension because you're just a regular guy, right? Chocolate, why would you get an email from one of these ballers to you? It doesn't make any sense, I agree with you. But there's a release valve that needs opening, and you're that release valve today, Chocolate.
Like a cry for help, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know which of us flat earthers to go to. So, Chocolate's the nicest out of everyone. Basically, help! Can you sort it out, Chocolate? Because the rest of these nasty lot just keep showing up my contradictions.
Yeah, Chocolate's not.
They were fixated on it yesterday.
Their big problem.
They spent about 6 hours on the sextant, and they're starting to do these broad hand waving.
It's not his fault. He's just reporting what they did.
Remember, you got the upper hand with the sextant. It works because it's flat. End of story.
Well, that's why
but they're trying every which way to wiggle their way out of this with broad sweeping statements like, oh, it can only work on a sphere. And they say you don't need a GP because you're the GP, like Nathan showed, where the line goes from the center of the earth through your ass, up through your head to the star. Like they're trying every different angle, but they were fixated for hours yesterday. So it's definitely stirring up the wasp nest.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out a solution.
Well, the solution is triangulation no longer
to us, aren't they?
So far,
the solution. The solution is triangulation is no longer triangulation. That's the solution.
Exactly. It started with just deny the 90. Now just deny that it's triangulation. Further to that, as per Professor Phil, just deny that it uses triangles at all. Just deny triangles. That's the path they've picked, and they seem to be on it, barreling down it at the moment.
Yeah, the no triangulation came up so many times, and then they said the sextant is actually to determine your distance to the GP. It's got nothing to do with angles.
Yeah, that's how
they wanted to get away.
Yeah, that's how you get it, exactly.
I remember from 3 years ago when the ballers were kind of bullying me that, oh, you don't understand triangulation. And now they do this. This is kind of bizarre, right? Because they should know what triangulation is. They did know what triangulation is. They would use it to like push me around like, oh, you don't understand it. Now I do understand it. Back then I didn't. Now I understand it. Now it's a problem for them. And now suddenly they don't know what triangulation is anymore.
So in many ways, hold on. Can I just respond to Owen? Hold on. So in many ways, when they were bullying you for not understanding triangulation, they were actually right to be doing that then, to be fair.
Oh, yeah. Sure. You know, confrontation with ignorance is always good. Because if you know what you don't know, then you can choose to learn about it.
They're going to know what it is tomorrow.
Right. If you type in the sextant, I'm gonna go out on a limb, having done this a few times over the weekend. Within a couple of paragraphs of any citation to do with the sextant, it will have the word triangulation in it. And
hey, now hold off on that.
I mean, hold off on that.
Yeah, I posted them all on Ballbusters.
Okay. No, I don't know what you've posted.
Ballbusters, are you?
This isn't linked. I didn't see that actually, but no. What I'm saying is, whenever
they say triangulation,
they all say triangulation. Whenever I've looked it up, they all say triangulation in the description.
Yeah, correct.
Well, that'll be because the point of it is to triangulate your position.
Hold on a second. Something's just dawned on me. In my notes, I've got cut out for various other commenters in my comment section that I've just spammed with, 5 to 6 or maybe more paragraphs that I've just taken randomly from whatever I've typed in something like the sextant. And then I've just gone to random results and just taken chunks out and put them into my notes. Are you saying that you've done the exact same thing in Ballbusters?
At 11:29 yesterday.
Oh, right, okay. That's fascinating. So while you were posting it, I was doing it. I was literally Googling. That's interesting. No, it's not. I remember back in the day when people would accuse other YouTubers of stealing their ideas. It's like, no, we're all on the same path. So is it shocking that I'd be looking at... Go on. Go on, Neil.
I said it's a sign.
No, it's not. It's a realistic coincidence. In other words, coincidentally, I'm looking at the same time. Well, it would only be an interesting coincidence if we were totally unrelated. And then you go, oh, well, that's interesting that we were both looking at the same thing at the same time. Is it a hyper unrealistic coincidence that two people studying the exact same thing, dealing with the exact same trolls, are going to go and do the exact same thing? No, it's not at all shocking. Makes perfect sense.
The message from God. Just be told.
No, Neil, that's not synchronicity. That's just the logical order of doing things. People just follow logical paths that are revealed to them.
And how many times have you told me, I swear these people are inside my head?
Never?
Okay, I'm imagining things.
I'm in their
You didn't
heads.
think that people would there had to be a connection somehow, because what they came out with was exactly what you were thinking. Come on, I've heard you say it.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
imagining
sure.
the voices inside Alwyn's head.
Yeah, because I thought you were referring to ballers. They're never in my head. I'm in their heads. But yeah, people come to the same conclusions when following the same study, the same material, you know? People ask the same questions when confronted with the same learning material. It happens over and over again, and any serious
So
teacher
Nathan
knows
on
all
one side
about
of the
that.
world. Hold on, Nathan on one side of the world.
I wasn't
is
finished in my
looking up
sentence yet,
something,
Neil.
And QE on the other side of the world is writing it out, and that's just a coincidence. Okay, I give up.
Yeah, if you'd let me finish my sentence, you'd heard that I was actually kind of backing you. But you didn't, so you didn't hear that.
Arwin, can you hold on? Can you stop interrupting the start of Neil's sentences, please?
Sorry, Arwin. Go ahead, back me up.
I'm
I
not
was
listening
saying
to this
it-
cackling nonsense.
Okay, Arwin, I'd like to hear your opinion about it.
Oh, that's the first time I've heard Arwin get away with actual sarcasm. That was so British of you.
That's copyrighted. I use that.
No, but all I was saying is every teacher that has taught classes persistently, not just 1 year, they get the same material they have to lay out on new groups of students over and over again. And after a few years, they can predict, like, this is what that student that just got in here is probably going to ask in response to this material. And then eventually they do, because everybody just responds in a very typical way naturally to learning material. The same questions arise, the same
Nathan, can I ask you a question?
objections, questions, all of it is all the same.
I agree, Arwin. That was my point too. Go ahead, Arwin.
Right. Well, Nottingham Forest have just sacked their manager, right? Now, if I was to go and speak to another Forest fan who reads the things like this and writing down the possible managers, what do you think it's likely if I spoke to another Forest fan that he's writing a list of the possible managers that could be?
No, I think it's totally and utterly.
Same passion.
No, I think it's totally unfeasible that you two could be looking into the same things at the same time. Totally unrealistic. No, absolutely not.
Now, if like some obscure monk from Tibet just wandered into the debate and said, the reason I'm here is I was looking into the triangulation, then there might be something more in that, yeah? But to have two people who speak to each other all the time about this bloody thing is khaki waffle. Stop it.
So,
what about chocolate the other day? What about, wait. What about chocolate the other day when he was talking about a certain map and boom, it just happened to be on screen?
George, your mic's open.
If we lived next door, I had socks.
All right, so can we change a little bit here?
Yeah, I got one more thing.
You want to go or you want me to round off here?
Yeah, I got one more thing because you'll appreciate this because there's a subtle pun that was put out that no one caught. So you were talking about triangulation and Neil was talking about how everyone was in synchronicity with triangulation. And then he said it was a sign. Yeah, it's called the law of signs. Triangulation, trigonometry. Have a
Now,
nice
that
day. I'll be
doesn't
near you all
require a
week.
right angle, John. That's the only difference. Law of sine, law of cosine, you can get away without the
Sine,
right angle.
cosine, tangent.
It's Capricorn.
It was a triangle sign in the road. It's a dead end ahead.
There's more hope for the monk being a fan of the forest between the trees.
What about Chocolate the other day talking about that map? And it just happened to pop up on screen? Hello? It's
That's
divine.
synchronicity.
No,
but
it's
that's
not.
actual synchronicity.
No, I intentionally put the Kobayashi. It's shocking that in 1,000 shows we haven't talked about it. So no, it rolls around every show. We just happen to be talking about it on that day, and it happened to be on screen. It's just coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
But
All right,
like
so what I was
geared to be coincidental. So anyway, 10th. Go ahead.
Yeah. First, they came out denying the 90. Then they came out denying the right angle. Now they're denying triangulation. Somewhere in between, they got mixed up of the radius of a GP. That's a straight line over thousands of miles that can't work on their sphere. Everything they so far have denied is part and parcel of the sextant operation. This is going to be embarrassing for them.
Well, to be fair, they've already landed at the stage where straight lines are bent or straight or bent or whatever they need to be in their minds. So they're already completely loose.
No, we got them to admit a radius is a straight line.
You need to name it Operation Sextant.
So if you were wondering how the war between flat Earth and globe Earth is going, that's how well it's going. I mean, we really are making strides forward. We've got the anti-flat earthers to admit a radius is straight. I mean, these are really big strides.
They have to curve a radius to make it work on their globe, or use a chord straight through a circle.
Look, Brian, baby steps. Next, I'm hoping to get them to understand that parallel lines don't meet. But baby steps, baby steps.
I think your sarcasm's unnecessary, Nathan. I think when dealing with any member of a cult, just getting them to recognise they're in a cult first, and that some of the fundamental premises that radiuses aren't bent, that's a big step, and help them on their journey.
What do they normally do? Don't they normally go into the compound, grab them by the shoulders and go, "You're in a cult, you crazy bastard!"
That's what Leah
Oh, they do
Remini's
that in
doing.
my
Did you
channel
see her
all the
on
time.
Joe Rogan?
What?
Said Leah Remini does that with Scientology. I heard her on Joe Rogan talking all about
Good
it.
segue. Scientology is just a branch of heliocentrism, though. Say that again. The silence that it was felt.
Agreed.
All Scientology is a slight, and I do mean slight, deviation from bog standard heliocentrism. It's a heliocentric religion, not that far removed. Once you're on a flat plane and you realise how very different the world that you actually are presented with is compared to the fantasy of being in a sky vacuum and having these distant galaxies, etc. When you then compare that to Scientology, you go, wow, there's a massive, massive gaping void between those two philosophies. Well, when you look at Scientology versus heliocentrism, there's virtually no difference.
Well, there is one slight difference, though. That is that heliocentrism, fundamentally, heliocentrists are uninformed that they are actually engaging in a religion. It's hidden from them. It's completely occulted. Scientology is a little bit more... Hold on, can I finish? It's a little bit more aware that it has stories it can't really physically back up, and you just have to shut up about it. So it's a little bit more self-aware.
That's no different. The fact that the stories that are backed by people on TV telling you that they're just stories, guesswork, leaps of logic, well, you know, that's put that out there as an understanding that, oh, well, we don't even know what gravity is, as an example. Like, well, that's part of the common culture. You know, the fact that the Scientologists haven't got the majority of the Western world behind their kooky little extension of heliocentrism and can't answer certain questions just means they haven't got mainstream scientists saying, well, we just understand that the archons are blah, 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 blah. And everyone nods along.
That's a good analogy. I was about to describe Scientology is that kind of hybrid bastardization between the heliocentric model and kind of the Gnostic understanding that we are stuck in horrible physical bodies and we shouldn't be. That, I think they call them alien bodies, or sort of the real bodies, not this body.
No.
But that's the same
Alien
hijacking
spirits.
of Gnostic theology. It's just, I'd say, it's just a dirty mix. But fundamentally, as Nathan says, it requires the heliocentric model to prop it up. Without that, it wholly falls apart, doesn't it? In terms of its fundamentals.
Yeah, it's a heliocentric spin-off. In the same way you've got various different
Heliocentrism
Christian spin-offs.
2.0.
That's no different. Go ahead, Silo.
All right. Still, there's a big difference.
Heliocentrism 2.0, whereby the people at least know that they're praising science.
I think it might be the remnants. They're building it up to be the remnants. So if there is a paradigm shift from globe to flat, well, you've got to have something to leave the kooky people who just cannot let it go to fall into. So the Church of Scientology will be there for the stragglers who are left on a sphere when everyone else goes, yeah, we always knew we were on a flat plane. You know, you get I've forgotten the 3 stages, but one of them's violently opposed. And then the last one, the acceptance stage, is acceptance as though it was always the case. So that, you know, if I'm correct, I suspect that will eventually, you know, you will reach a number of people that just get it. And they might not be arguing about it and fighting about it, but when that number becomes the majority, everyone will just turn around when somebody happens to be on the street and go, well, you know, it's flat, right? And then the person they're responding to goes, yeah, we all know it's flat. Everyone knows that. We've always known that. You know, like in 1984, when they changed the war from being with Oceania to them being their allies, everyone, after a very short period of time and realistic in the story, just goes, yeah, we've always been allied with Oceania. Yeah? Well, eventually when it's, well, we've always been on a flat plane. We've always known that. Yeah? There'll be people who are lost in the society. In the same way as when they transitioned to globe, there was a subset of flat earthers. Yeah? And they had to control the opposition in that regard. Well, they'll just have the same thing with Scientology. That will be the remnants of heliocentrism.
And it'll be really, if I may, it will be really easy too, because all the Scientologist priests will have to say, yeah, everybody's suddenly possessed by the spirits in the ground again. The ancient alien spirits have possessed them full, and the great delusion is upon them because they again believe the earth is flat. Oh no. And it'll fool the ones that want to be fooled.
If I really wanted to mess with things, from a YouTube point of view, like from a position of power, having some kind of sway and power on the internet, over the internet, I'd have debates pumped out there where the Flat Earth Society are debating Scientology. That really confused the matter. Well, nobody knows what the hell is real then. Because I wonder if that's going on somewhere. If Flat Earth Society are debating Scientology somewhere.
Hello, hello, that's us. Albeit one stage removed. You know, if it's only a slight deviation from heliocentrism to Scientology, and it's only a slight deviation from controlled opposition flat Earth to us, then we are that, Brian. Just once removed. That's precisely what we are.
Yeah, so, but both parties will never have a reason to go.
Hold on, Alwyn. Hold on, Brian. Hold on. Just let me make my point to you. So what I'm saying is, if that is a ploy of somebody really evil, then you'd move the pieces around the board to allow what I do or what we do to exist, and it does. In a world of suppressed data, we're still here doing this. Now, I've got all my videos monetized. Not all of them, but the majority of them. I make money from this. I make a living from this, right? Well, what you've described would be the description I give when I say, oh, well, what if we're just, you know, inadvertent part of the controlled opposition, or here to help them figure out the narrative going forward for heliocentrism? Then we're just part of the problem in that regard, aren't we? If I'm very skeptical. And you're like, well, if there was a bad man at the top, he'd put Scientology versus the Flat Earth Society. It's like, well, no, but in a very, very real sense of the word, you can have the people do that for you. You don't have to put in any effort. You just position the pieces in a certain way.
Well, there's a very logical reason for that.
Arwyn, I'm talking to Brian.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Arwyn, just a minute. Well, what I'm talking about is taking the spotlight from the real game of chess which is us versus the anti-flat earth globers, and bringing it over to the mock game of Flat Earth Society versus Scientology. That way, the general public will just see it as an absolute joke. That's what I would do if I was in a position of power.
But that would be what you'd have to do right at the start, before leaking it in the way that they had through YouTube to all of us. Well, then you just set it up without letting anybody know. So if in that case, the only way we would have come across it wouldn't be through Matt Powerland or Mark Sargent or Eric DeBay or whoever. It would be through their controlled up narrative via the TV screens of the Flat Earth Society versus the Scientologists, and we'd all just be giggling along, right? Having never actually come across the subject to begin with. But instead, they put it out to us. So we then fill that position, because that could only have happened if it happened at the start without the general masses being consciously aware of this thing called Flat Earth.
That's right.
Unless they have Bob Nodell fighting with Scientology.
No, Bob is.
Then that would be, you know, a type of Flat Earth Society 2.0 versus Scientology, which is the Globe 2.0.
You're a Bob Nodell fan.
Can I say something?
Because that's what Bob does. Bob talks about stuff that's for Flat Earth Society stuff. So that you could publicize the hell out of that and take all spotlight away from us.
Well, that's what he's trying, at least.
Because
we've got such. We are here. I think we are here, being able to do what we do, because you can't make new machinations unless you know the truth. So they kind of need us for the chisel work to perfect their machinations to fool everybody. Because if we were not around to perfect things based on truth, then they would never have any truth perfection to reflect off and use as a ground for more machinations. That's why I think we're here.
Yeah, if we're skeptical, we can say we're here so that they can iron out the creases. I used to describe it as filling out the cracks. So the concrete has some cracks in it. We come along and go, look at this great big crack in the heliocentric description. And they go, send in a team, fill in that crack.
Exactly. And we're that team, except we don't know we're that team because we need to stay honest. Because if we knew we were on that team, we would never be compelled to go as far as we do in our striving. So we are unwittingly controlled opposition, basically.
Maybe. We're just speculating. I know you're a shell, though.
Well,
on the other hand, the Earth is flat. So, yeah, we can just keep on doing this. They'll never find a good enough machination to basically undo everything that we've developed. They can never undo it. They can only, and that's what they're figuring out, deepen the doublethink that a person is willing to engage with.
Yeah, I'm glad you gave, yes.
Where they're driving. That's what they're actually developing.
Yes, I agree. Now you added the end disclaimer. So, yeah. But don't be so naive about the first part. There's just absolutely no trouble at all in drawing a big fat line through us rather than under us. So don't kid yourself. If they actually wanted us properly gotten rid of, and if we were actually being what we're portraying as heavily censored, then we wouldn't be here. You know, we just wouldn't. In the same way, if you were to be discussing aspects of medicine that you don't really understand and calling foul on things that have happened over the last couple of years, YouTube and the government didn't want that. So they said, no. If you do that, bye-bye. Now, did anybody make any footfall? I wasn't one of those people, and most of the panelists weren't one of those people. But in some instances, people in the Flat Earth community segued across to that particular subject, and the system said no. Did we win the battle? No. Did we keep the videos? No. They just said no, and that was the end of it, wasn't it?
Well, we could be considered as the thorn left in the beast's paw on purpose. They're leaving this one thorn in, right? They went after all the alternative medical developments in the last decade or two, seriously go after them. Very, very serious censorship and lawsuits and everything you can imagine. They're not really doing that with us. So we are the thorn that is being left in the paw on purpose.
Right. Which makes me think someone put us, if we're the metaphorical thorn, someone put us there. Maybe in this speculation that we're going through now.
I would say it's different. I would say that thorn is so big that once they pull that out, it won't heal up. It'll just fester, it'll bleed, and there'll be no avoiding it. It's easier with it just in there at the moment. There's nothing they can do.
And metaphorically, that's the delusion that the anti-flat earthers live under. We're just a thorn, and if we can just get rid of the thorn, everything will be okay. Well, no. As much as you may want to think that if, I don't know, flat earthers weren't around, life would be sweet. Definitely not. You'd have pulled the thorn out, but the wound would remain open permanently. As much as you think it would quickly heal and you get on with life, no. It will still nag and niggle long after I'm gone away if you're younger than I am. You know, you'll still be niggling if I'm not here. If nobody's here talking about it, for all the people who've been exposed to it, they're stuck with that. You know, you can't climb back up the hill.
Darwinism spoke about his neighbour who he became friends with, who he was telling his neighbour what he does and showed him who he is and all that. And his neighbour wasn't really buying any of it, any of the flat earth stuff, until he heard about 2019 when it was spoke about. I think it was in Congress, where they basically asked the CEO of that lady, CEO of YouTube, what are you going to do about this? We're going to lump it in with these two other things, and we're going to claim that they're all false news, basically. And we're going to just not give a promotion. You know, as soon as he heard that, Jaron's neighbour, as soon as he heard that, he went, why didn't you tell me that before? They wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't something to hide. So straight away, he was on board.
I agree. That speaks volumes, Brian. Good example. But if you where was the meeting in Congress that said you couldn't talk about the medical situation? Oh, there wasn't one. We didn't hear about that. They just said no, and that you just weren't allowed to do that, right? But yet, the censorship of Frankie Goes to Hollywood is being talked about all over the radio, right? And Frankie Goes to Hollywood went to #1 as they talk about how it's being censored. So they showed the world, televised, how we're going to look over here. Look, this is us asking specifically to censor them. Yeah? Look at this. Look, we're asking them directly to not let you see this. Okay? Can you see what we're showing you? Do you see my point?
Yeah, it was promotion, not
relax.
Censorship.
Don't do it.
It was promotion, not censorship. They tried to make it look like censorship, but it was actually promotion.
Seems that way to me.
Yeah, well, if they pulled Flat Earth off of YouTube and started pushing it down, there'd be no stopping it. It would explode.
Wrong.
Think, hang on.
Wrong.
How come they're doing this?
Wrong. I've just made 2 examples.
It has exploded.
Sorry, if they don't want something, it will not be here.
Yeah, but Flat Earth is slightly different.
No, that's not true, Nathan.
Flat Earth is slightly different because Flat Earth is about the Earth. We're talking about the place where we live in. It's a much huge or broader subject. So if people hear that people aren't allowed to speak about that, they'll want to hear what they're not allowed, what these people aren't allowed to say. The curiosity is like, why aren't they allowed it? Why is it these people are saying? They're going to want to know in mass.
But yet you can still buy the album, it's still on the shelves, and everyone standing around it talking about how it's censored on the shelves can still go up to HMV's counter and pay for it.
Well, I understand the analogy. I understand what you mean, that they promoted it more than censored it. But I'm talking about if they blocked it completely, what that would do. That's not what they want. If anything, they want it to gradually become a thing and not suddenly, hang on, how come they're blocking this thing?
Yeah, I agree with that too.
Thing.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. If you make the perception that it's being censored, then everyone who might come across it at a cursory glance and definitely isn't going to dig into it goes, no, that's being dealt with, and I already know why it would be dealt with. It's so silly, and then they move on, and everything's cushy. Because even while I'm talking about them saying, look over here, look, we're censoring it, most people will just take the surface level meaning. Oh, it's being censored because it's bad. Well, then it's bad. You know, that is, unfortunately, the 80% of people. They're not going to scratch past that surface level. Why would they? But being censored and actually having your material withheld from people's view are very different things in this respect. Now, you say, well, it's flat earth. Well, okay, it's very different for medicine. It's the human body after all. So that's very different, Brian. Well, no. How is it any different? It isn't. But in one instance, computer says no, so therefore no. In this instance, TV says no, computer says yes.
No, I understand. I understand what you mean. I do. And I don't disagree with you on what you I understand your understanding about it. My only grievance would be with what you're saying is that if they, well, not so much grievance because you're not really going against it. You're just not kind of on board with it. Is that if they just blocked Flat Earth and off of YouTube and all main stuff tomorrow, then what you would have is you'd have a rebellious group of people wanting to know, how come I'm not allowed to do that? How come? And people would want to know about it just to rebel against the system or whatever.
Great.
They would be the first people who would want to know. So what they're doing is they're taking away that element by saying they're blocking it or saying they're not promoting it, but while promoting it. We're not promoting this thing we're talking about on the internet and on TV in Congress. We're definitely not promoting this thing. Nobody should pay attention to this big red huge light over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. On a slightly different note, just don't mention Bob's creepy eyes. I'd prefer you didn't. Is that all clear?
That's been done with. We have a 90-degree head now.
Flathead, Herman Munster.
So, just to round this out with Brian, I think in a very sceptical way, you can say, yeah, we're just here to tart up the cracks, get the rhetoric back in order, see where it's got any flaws so we can adjust our rhetoric around that, put out the publications that people on the globe side, normal globe people, can just come across should they dip into the subject. Now, that is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is to say that, yes, tomorrow, if they were to say, we're just going to say no, you're not allowed this anymore, then there would be a backlash and it would have a massively detrimental effect. And if we're on the second hand, if you like, looking at a slow release scenario, then they definitely don't want that either. So they've got to control it in a way that still lets it tick along, definitely doesn't kill it off, but doesn't cause mass rebellion to alert too many people too quickly. So from that perspective, you've got a second scenario where they do want it to come out. But the same thing applies to the information tomorrow being completely censored versus when it first came out. So if it was, let's say, censored to the degree of other things that have been censored recently, I would not have found out about this. In other words, Math Powerland's video would have come out and they'd have gone, no, bye-bye, you break rules, sorry, not allowed to be here. And he'd have kicked it first and bitched and moaned and nobody would have heard about it. And then I'd have come across it by the controlled up narrative that they wanted me to, as opposed to the stuff they didn't. And we wouldn't know about it to rebel against it. Yeah, we all know now, so if it happened tomorrow, yeah. But back then they could have just said no, but they didn't. Quite the contrary.
Exactly. Quite the contrary. And that must be one of the questions that the Globers deep down have to be asking themselves. Why did they not just block this from the word go? Why did Matt Powerland get to have that video out there of him mentioning and talking about this?
That's begging the question. You think ballers have internal dialogue? I have to object to that shit.
Yeah, I could be off base there.
Do we all have it? This is something JLB covered about a year or two ago. And when he brought it up, I said to myself, obviously everybody has an internal dialogue. We all just sit around talking to ourselves and figuring out what a potential conversation might go like with a third party that isn't there. Isn't that normal? And then I started asking people, and they all gave me some very funny looks. So you talk to yourself. No, I don't talk to myself. I'm working out what a potential conversation I've never ever had might go like. But that's talking to yourself. No, I didn't have this language when at the time when I've discussed it prior. It's internal dialogue. You're figuring things out. You're discussing things with yourself to try and work something out. A lot of people don't have that, shockingly enough.
Right, it's
That's
just
scary.
a simulation in your mind.
Information goes in, stays in, it's processed. Not information goes in, and then you go, is that correct? Well, I don't know, maybe it's correct. Have you thought about this aspect of it? I haven't thought about that aspect of it.
That,
Maybe if I
that
did.
happens. That happens in sales training all the time because you have to know what the objections are out there before you go do presentations, so you can be well rehearsed on how to overcome an objection with the product you're selling.
Exactly right. Exactly correct. I'd be driving along, talking to myself. Or walking along, talking to yourself, working out a conversation. What if I pitched this and the response was that? What would I say? Well, while you're doing that, you're literally saying to yourself, how would I react to this? Literally a conversation with yourself. Yeah, that's critical thinking, internal dialogue. All of these things are connected. And when we say a lot of people don't have critical thinking skills, well, they're not exercising any sort of internal dialogue. They're not working their way mentally through anything that they're presented with ever. I smile because when I first found this out, I was totally shocked. I've got to be honest. It caught me totally off guard. It tied into something that I dislike, which was NPCs, the idea that people are literally non-player characters. They're just walking around. Now, once I got the metaphor, I'm like, bloody hell, that metaphor makes a lot more sense now. Because, yeah, you can compare your average person that's not exercising any critical thought whatsoever, doesn't have any entirely internal dialogue, and just literally goes through the motions of life, breeds, pays taxes, and dies. And you go, man, that does kind of fit in with the description of a non-player character. What are they doing? Just going through the motions.
Yep. Welcome to Baller Land.
I see the people on the opponent side. I don't see them as NPCs. Yeah, God, it's going to rattle some cages. In some respects, I see them as our equals because they've exercised critical thought, but fared towards their bias. So then they try and exercise that critical thought with a bias, and then that leaves them in cognitive pain, but they wouldn't be in that cognitive pain unless they'd exercised critical thought. So they must have done.
No way.
Oh, I don't know.
90% or no way.
It
No
depends who you're
chance.
talking
No
about.
internal dialogue.
Okay.
No scrutiny.
Well,
no
this is
due
fun.
diligence.
This is a fun game, right? So let's rattle off a few of the names of our opponents, and we're going to play. I can't think of a catchy title. Internal dialogue or no internal dialogue, because that's a catchy title. So I'm gonna rattle off some people because everyone got out their crystal balls. You all got their crystal ball?
I do.
Yeah. I have mine.
Right, switch it to telepathy setting. Has everyone done that?
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to divine the thoughts and feelings and emotions of our opponents, just like they do for us. Of course, I'm dressing it up in absolute farce before we do it, as opposed to making it like a statement of fact, right? So let's play internal dialogue or no internal dialogue. Catchy title to follow. So let's start with Simon Dan.
Absolutely
No.
zero.
I agree.
No.
Yeah, I
That
thought I'd start with
guy's
one that
just
we'd all
silent.
agree on. Yeah, I agree. No internal dialogue. Complete
Blank
zombie.
stares.
Say again, Owen?
Lots of blank stare, so no.
Okay. What about Sean Hawkins? Internal dialogue or no internal dialogue?
No. No. Oh, no way.
Well, he might
No
have
zero.
internal
Less
dialogue,
than
but not
zero.
that he's aware of.
Zero minus zero.
Okay. What about Sly Sparkane?
0.
I disagree.
I don't know.
I disagree. I think Sly Sparkane does have internal dialogue.
No, he doesn't.
4%.
He's as deaf as a stump.
Check it out, Sly Sparkane dividing us up.
It all depends on how much creativity can you apply. If there's zero creativity, there's zero internal dialogue. If there's some creativity, there might be some internal dialogue. It might not be sufficient, but it's still there.
See, because he
That's how I see
repositions. I would call repositioning an equal, because it's not the same as recycling like some psychopath does when they're just using other people's ideas. You know, Sly Sparkane can reposition your argument to the frustration of many, to my amusement in many instances, because you can unpick it. But that requires. Go on.
Just because he's not a begaker. See, this is down to begaker versus somebody that will come up with some type of argument. I don't think the delineation's there, because you could still have no internal dialogue and come up with a train wreck argument.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but it's a train wreck argument if it's not creative. That's the whole thing. If it's just a stupid, sloppily put together argument that's very obviously flawed, then there's probably not a lot of internal dialogue preceding
There
that.
you go.
But if it is smartly put together,
I agree. When you've convinced me. Owen's convinced me.
A position of desperation. Needing,
fair enough.
Out of desperation. Needing an argument.
In other words, the cogs are turning, but they're just grinding together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, no, I'll buy that. That makes perfect sense. Okay, next. Fight the flat earth. Internal dialogue or no internal dialogue?
0.
No.
I don't know. He's weird. I think sometimes he does, but he definitely has no control over it, and he does have a lot of blank stares in certain regions.
I reckon it's another desperation situation where he, in a desperate moment, he's willing to just say anything as an argument, whatever it takes.
I think we're all agreed on that one. Who else have we got? You'll have to start rattling some off.
Gem Panda.
Ugh. I don't know with him.
What?
He might have internal dialogue, but it's probably not his.
In the last two, Craig and Gem are like poster children for a comprehensive education. You know, they are just parroters. I'm going to say no. Anybody else want to disagree?
Yeah, he might have internal dialogue, but it's not his.
What about Professor Dave?
Professor Dave?
Non-professor.
I don't remember.
He's not a professor. He's not a professor.
Internal dialogue? Well. Internal dialogue or no internal dialogue? Does Professor Dave sit around talking to himself?
I couldn't imagine him. I couldn't imagine him. No, because going off his arguments, there's no way he had any internal dialogue.
Yeah,
what are some of the things he's said? Because I haven't heard about him in a long time.
Whenever I've listened to Professor Dave, all he does is rattle off what I'd call 2015 arguments. That's all I've ever seen him do.
Yep.
Oh, really?
He's
only
0.
The old stuff?
Move on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, 0 then.
What about George Netanyahu?
Yes.
And internal dialogue or no internal dialogue? George Netanyahu. Got a yes from Arwin.
He does seem fairly intent. So he's another maybe 4 or 8%, or
he's saying yes, but very low percentage. Yeah,
well, it comes back to see if you have look. Let's be honest. If you have any real internal dialogue, you're not going to be on the ball side. So it has to be a desperation situation.
That was my point. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was going to say we're
welcome.
We're about 0 and 5 so far, I think. 0 for 5. What else we got?
No, I think he does. No, I disagree.
Well, let's try a different tact. Who can name a baller with internal dialogue? Someone who you think has got
Rumpus.
rumpus?
Oh yeah.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
with one from Shady
He's
Meadows.
just not in full control of it. But
think
he
it is-
does. Oh yes. Careful planner.
If he had internal dialogue, I think by now he'd have driven himself to insanity.
Careful
Yes.
planner?
Yeah.
Did you
Planner
say
of
careful
machinations.
planner?
No, he's just begurking off stuff. He's just begurking off. On old shows, you can see him when he's got his screen share, just scrolling his way through endless stuff he parrots off.
Yeah, but he does know how to creatively put it together to make it seem.
No, he doesn't. He contradicts himself with every other breath.
That's only when you hold his toes to the fire. If he has his space, he can make it seem seemingly cohesive pretty well. But only if you're uninformed.
I'm starting to question whether you have internal dialogue now.
I don't know. Does Arwen have internal dialogue, Nathan? I'm not sure.
Do you have internal dinner, Kiwi?
Or something internal.
Really?
Pretend that these guys do have an internal dialogue consisting of "you're great, you're right," no matter what these flippers say. You know, they're just repeating this same stuff that prevents them from actually listening. So it's like an internal dialogue on repeat of what their mom would tell them.
That's Johnny Bravo internal dialogue. You're looking good, looking handsome, looking fine. Anyway, let's stop talking about me. What do you all think about me?
Yeah.
So that's got a good point, though. That is true. They have a loop, an internal dialogue loop that continually tells them what they need to hear internally to continue doing what they're doing.
I call it white noise.
Now that is a comedy
It's
show.
what they use to blank it out.
That's
to
a
blank
comedy
out
show.
what they
What we need to do is take some dialogue from an actual discussion in the debate back and forth where it's gone round and round and round in circles, and then do the violin sound, the bloom, bloom, with the like fading haze, and then go inside the brain of the baller and play what the baller's actually hearing.
I do that all the time. Serious. When you go at it with a baller, like last time with Bob the Science Guy, when I heard that back, I was like, whoa. Like you could almost feel inside of his head. I could. I don't know. Not physically, but so I do that all the time. Crawling in people's head is what I do.
I think you've still got your crystal ball on clairvoyant mode. Just turn it off, Arwen. Put it away.
Were you bouncing off the funhouse mirrors?
That's funny that you mention it because yes, there was some basically back and forth reflective situation. It was very rigid though. It's like there's not a lot of maneuvering room. It's all very simplistic inside of there.
I think that they work off of, because they work, not that I think they do, because they will have to work off of tactics, because that's all they have. Then their internal dialogue just consists of tactics. Well, I didn't say they were good. I didn't say they were good, but it's either tactics or actually listen to what we're saying. It's one or the other. You know what I mean? So internal tactics, dialogue, or something. I don't know. They don't have. They're not having an honest. They're not hearing what we say. They're not having an honest conversation in them.
But that's word fishing. What you're meaning? Then they can filter out. It's like reading quickly through a book. You look at certain words. You don't read the whole thing. That's what they do when they listen to us sometimes, to extract tactical possibilities, right? They don't actually listen to the context. They're just trying to look for words that they can use in their response.
Exactly. They're looking for an opening. They're not looking to respond to your questions or respond to your refute of their claim that they made when they first entered. They're waiting to catch you up or trying to induce that by asking you a question that gets you to make a claim that they can then pull apart. That's why you spend a lot of the time with you pointing out what they've just claimed and how it's been refuted, and them desperately trying to move on to something they can pin on you.
Right. It's called fishing, by the way.
Yeah, fishing, exactly. Fishing for something they can attack.
Yeah, tactics. Just tactics. That's all they've got. So their internals are just tactics. It's like he said this
they
word.
don't have any tactics. They don't have any tactics. They couldn't attack a wet toilet paper roll.
Nobody says they have to be very good at it.
Yeah,
None of them.
They're not good at it. But...
None of them.
The trouble is, if you compare it to a battlefield, the kind of sloppy behaviour from our opponents would mean that they're running onto the battlefield and losing their head immediately. Whereas here, that happens metaphorically, but then they just seem to get back up, put their head back on and go, nothing happened.
Yep. It's merely a flesh wound.
Well, they just respawn and do it over again, like in a video game.
Yep.
Exactly. That's a better analogy. Exactly. So they go charging down the battlefield, they get their head blown off in the video game, and then they just respawn at the base and do it all over again. And go, you didn't get me? Yeah, I did. I'm blowing your head off now. And then they respawn and come and go and try and throw the exact same thing at you over and over again. Because they've got infinite men.
Yeah, it's like a paintball battle where they are covered in paint and they're trying to say nothing happened.
Yeah, another good analogy.
I'm loving this
or better
show.
analogy with the paintball analogy. So they're at the flag that's heavily defended, and they're covered in paintballs from about 3 different people, and they stroll up to the flag and take it. They're like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "You didn't get me. I still won." They're like, no, you're covered in paintballs, or you've had your head removed. What do you think you're doing? Well, I still won. I'm taking the flag, but you're covered in paintballs. No, I'm not. I won. You lost. Now I'm going to go away and tell everyone how I won because look, I'm holding the flag. You took it after you got covered in paintballs. Yeah, because I won.
It's that internal list.
I've actually experienced somebody doing that in real life one time.
the reference that like QE made, I was going to say just before he said it, was like merely a flesh wound from Monty Python's Holy Grail movie, where you have the Black Knight that's defending the bridge, gets his arms and legs cut off, and trying to pretend nothing happened, and then as the knight Arthur or whatever is walking away, he's saying, "Yeah, what's wrong? You had enough. Why won't you come back and fight me?" You know, it's like. It's a lack of concession. It's over. You've lost. You got nothing left.
Yeah.
Why would I hang around?
Exactly. For example, I'd like you to debate conspiracy cats. Well, I've already debated him. He hasn't given me an R value. Ask him for R. Okay. I asked him for R. It's an unreasonable concession. Well, what are you talking about? I just want R. No, you're running away. What are you talking about? I'm stood right here. No, you're running away. What?
Yeah. It's like 1 hour.
No, we haven't judged conspiracy cats yet about the internal dialogue. I think
we kind of came to a kind of a point where I thought we had decided that.
But that's a good one. But that's a great one because Brian, I've watched him disclose his internal dialogue on Haunted House's channel. Therefore, in pain level, conspiracy cats is much closer to one of us than you might appreciate. That's why his pain level's higher, because of his internal dialogue that he discussed with Haunted House.
That's true.
What about Ranty?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
No internal dialogue from Ranty.
No, he does, but it's bad news.
I mean?
No, Ranty has internal dialogue. Ranty knows exactly.
You just don't want to know
doing.
what he is doing. You know, he has an internal dialogue, but it's dirty. It's dirty business.
Okay.
No, he knows what he's doing. Ranty showed how the Earth can't be a globe over and over and over, and now he's a globe. So no, he knows exactly what he's doing. There's no way that he doesn't have an internal dialogue.
I watched Mr. Cheswick released a video of Ranty licking Simon Dunn's asshole. It was pure. What? It was absolutely sickening. Him telling him, "Oh yeah, I don't really think you faked all your subs." Like, all right, why did you make a video claiming that he did then, Ranty? with absolutely no evidence, I might add. Yeah, sickening. And if I was on the baller side or the anti-flat Earth side, and someone like Ranty came into our flock, wouldn't that sicken you? I mean, really? I mean, for the sake of argument, if I told you tomorrow that you're going to be fighting shoulder to shoulder with George Netanyahu, how would that make you feel as a flat earther? So George has swapped sides now. He just decided yesterday that actually flat Earth, because what do you know? Let's just paint a different picture, a more broad picture. Tomorrow, flat Earth gets heavy promotion. Seems to be in the trending lists. Mad exposure. Yeah? And then you see George Netanyahu change sides. Now, unless you're a complete retard, what would you think?
I'm going back to the ball if he's here.
But would you see it as sincere?
No. But George, that wouldn't happen. George wouldn't be. That would. George's head would melt down. He just melt. The visual of what would happen to George if they start promoting flat Earth as fact, that would be it. No, there's no way.
We might see that. So along the lines of the conversation we were having earlier, Brian, let's say we know how easy it is for our government, if you want to look at it that way, to just completely U-turn on certain subjects without batting an eyelid. And there's a little bit of backlash for a day until there's a better story on the front pages. Well, let's say for the sake of argument, that was actually the case tomorrow. They just decide they're going to come out with it. It's reached enough mass now. Yeah, it's not going to cause chaos. Just tell them, yeah, it's flat. How do you think someone like George would react to that? Because I think that they couldn't cope.
Not at all. No, that would be horrendous. I mean, the video of that, the video of George doing this, and the video of what it would look like, it would be an horrendous video. I can't even. I mean, there'd be all kinds of reds and purples going on in his head. I don't know.
Maybe that's who they fear.
Swelling of the nose.
Maybe that's who they fear. Maybe that's what they've got to hold back. That's where the floodgates have been built. It's not around the normies. It's not around the globe believers. The concern is with our anti-flat Earth opponents. What would they do? Because there's enough of them, and if they all went nuts at once, that'd be a very big problem on society's hands, wouldn't there? And maybe they're not actually concerned with us at all. They're concerned with our anti-flat Earth counterparts. What they might do, how they might react.
Oh yeah, I mean they'd be the problem. Like that's what. Like I mean, when you spoke before, I thought you were kind of speaking. At other times before the show, I thought you were kind of speaking in that way. I mean, they are the problem. We're not the problem. We're nice and calm. They are the problem. They're likely to go crazy. Like,
yeah, they'll go postal.
Yeah. Who knows what George Netcher? Who knows what effect that would have on him?
Well, they would be the ones with pitchforks, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean,
where we joked about this in the start, and the opponents at the time were like, "Well, why aren't you marching on NASA then?" You're like, "Well, because I don't think it will achieve anything. Why would I go to a liar and demand truth from them? They'll just lie to me some more." But our opponents on the anti-flat Earth side, they won't see that logic. They will probably demand more lies from the liars. You know, they'll be there with their pitchforks and torches going, "Give me more lies, liar. Why did you lie? Give me an excuse for your lie." With another lie. They'll be there demanding it. Pathetic, but that's what will happen.
Well, if you think about the people we deal with, we either deal with robots, absolute robots, or we deal with people who are robots and psychopaths. There's only two. Like, there's a mix of both, or you're one. Or you're either a robot or you're a mix of the two. So that's a very dangerous group of people for the public to have to deal with. Very dangerous. Because they already are psychopaths.
Don't we know it?
So they wouldn't be driven. They wouldn't be driven psycho because they're already psychopaths, or they're already robots. So
and we see it,
what
don't we?
happens
We
when-
moan about it all the time. But when we moan about the venom, that's actually from them. You know, all those comments that we're talking about now, they might be able to kid themselves that it's not really them because they're hiding behind some sock name. But you know who you are, right? And you know the things you've said. You are the scum here. The problem that's probably having to be kept back is you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're not going to be a danger. If we were going to be a danger, we would have been.
No,
Why not?
we're a danger to them because we remind them, trigger them, and then they immediately project everything that comes afloat onto us.
Yeah, isn't that
That's what they
useful?
do.
Hey, so, as it stands, this makes perfect sense. So if you're the liar, where do you want somebody who could potentially, or is on the tip of finding out but very volatile about your lie, just about believing you, where do you want to direct their rage and anger? Well, you want to direct it elsewhere, don't you? Well, where are we? Well, we're the elsewhere, that's where. We are that direction change in terms of the anger of the people who are on the verge of realisation that they've been lied to in a massive way. Those angry people have got all of their venom directed towards us. That's where we sit in the useful scale. Well, yeah, they can direct their anger towards the flat earthers, because it's their fault, isn't it? Yeah, we're the messenger. So it's our fault.
We're the lightning rods.
Well, if you think about the age group of people we deal with, they're in their 20s to their kind of like 40s, 50s, let's say on average. There might be a few younger and a few older, but that's kind of the age group. So it's like a whole generation or two of people that they need to slowly change the schooling systems over the next 20 years to change that balance of numbers, because we're in the absolute minority and these crazy maniacs are in the absolute majority, these robots. So they need to change that around, and they need to kind of tire these people out. So these people need to just get tired out by the whole subject.
But this is where it comes full circle, Brian. So the people who we say don't have the internal dialogue are the 80% that would have just accepted the change if it had been made, and within a few months would probably just accept it as the norm for whatever reasons they were given to by the gobblebox, the TV. But for the fact that we've got anti-flat earthers, so the robots and psychopaths, that isn't the majority, that's the minority. And as I say, I think that's the main concern, that's the main reason for a trickling in of this subject, to convert the last aggressive stragglers who cannot bear to be without their ball, because they're going to be the main problem. As you say, not us. Well, we're pacifists on them for the most part. Nobody's burning down buildings, nobody's causing riots. That's not what we do. Nobody's doing that. Quite the contrary. The most aggressive thing you'll get is somebody out there with a megaphone.
Yeah, but when I say majority, I'm talking about the anti-flat earthers. But you're not. Maybe I'm wrong.
Sorry. Yeah, the majority of anti-flat earthers. My bad. Sorry, Brian. Yes.
Yeah, would you say there's a lot more of them than there is of us? I would have said
No.
there's more anti. Or what was our potential for?
No.
No, I think they're in a very small niche. While they might seem that way because they're heavily promoted, they're a very, very small subset of society. They still are. They always were. Anti-flat Earth is tiny.
Yeah, well, I can't really disagree with that. I suppose there's not really a multitude of them. I just thought they might be worried about the amount of anti-flat earthers that might turn up. But I suppose if they were going to turn up after 6 years, they would have turned up already. So those who are here now are those who it is.
But nobody wants to become a anti-flat earther. That's it.
No.
Because it's a really miserable thing to be, right?
Hold on.
The same doesn't go for a real flat earther. So we definitely outnumber them, but they know no shame. So they will do whatever they can to try to fake a majority or a winning position, as they always do.
Yep, with socks. You know, they've personally told me, several of them, that they've got hundreds of sock accounts. So they're trying to create this majority impression. And the reason they're trying to do it, it made no sense at first, because it's like, well, why do you need to do it? You are in the majority. No, they're not. They're a very small subset of society known as anti-flat earthers. And they need to make that seem like it's very dominant. And it isn't. It's just a whole bunch of you all on different sock accounts, isn't it? Bless your little cotton socks in your little corner of the internet, which happens to be getting heavily promoted by YouTube at the moment. Very profitable. Shout out to Ranty Flat Earth.
Shout out retracted.
Well, they definitely, whatever amount of matter they are, they're definitely, I think as soon as we show that we wore them out, because it's like we have to wear them out. And we will do because our numbers will continually grow exponentially in comparison to theirs. As soon as we've wore them out, which is on the cards within the next couple of years, then they'll know it's safer to go forward with the plan of, let's just say, of releasing the facts to the world, bit by bit, whatever way they want to do. But at the moment, it's still on tenterhooks because there is enough of these people to cause problems, to go postal, like to go crazy. I don't know if they're worried about them going postal. I don't know. I don't really know.
But they only do it really in our faces, you know, and in shady little rooms among themselves. The anti-flat earthers don't get in everybody's face. They only get in your face if you're a flat earther that's a threat.
Dawn.
If you think of it as a zombie situation, zombies aren't dead, but they're not alive. And that's where they're in. They're in this nowhere place where they can't go back to the globe, but they won't accept flat earth. So no matter how many scenarios you come up with, there's nothing more dangerous than a load of zombies.
Perfect. With that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and Cheapest panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams. Hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!